it's Lindsay. Welcome back to The Wandering Reader. Today I'm going to be talking about my Autobuy authors. So there are a variety of different reasons as to why I will automatically buy something that a writer brings out, which I found really interesting thinking about who to put on this list today. They're not necessarily my favourite authors, although a lot of them are. So I have 10 books to share with you today, so let's jump in. So the first writer that I want to talk to you about today is Liz Trennell, and this is her book In Love and War. Liz Trennell is a local author to me. I think she lives in Suffolk or Essex, one of the two. She's very, very local to me nonetheless, and I've only read one of her books, and that's a book called The Poppy Factory. It's a book centred around World War I and told from a woman's perspective. Her husband has just come back from the war and he's got a terrible war injury, and it talks about her experience of coping with that basically, and I really enjoyed that book, and that's the book that I read of hers that made me think I wanted to pick up other things by her. I actually own all of her books now, apart from the very latest one that she's brought out, which I can't remember the name of off the top of my head. But yeah, she just recently brought out a 6th book, but all of the rest of her books I now own. So I really must get around to reading another one, because like I said, I really did enjoy The Poppy Factory, but I think it's because she's a local author to me that I really want to support her, and obviously because I've enjoyed The Poppy Factory before, I just automatically pick up her work. Plus the fact that I've met her before, went to a talk from her in my local Waterstones, so she did a talk and then she did a book signing afterwards, and it was really lovely listening to her talk about where she gets her inspiration from, and the talk was about the book The Silk Weaver, and she talked about all of the research that she'd done and how she came up with the idea for the book and things like that, and it was really interesting listening to her talk as well. So yeah, she is my first Autobuy author. Next up we have got Linwood Barclay, and this is his latest book, A Noise Downstairs. Now I think I pretty much own every Linwood Barclay book that has been published. I think apart from he has a few that he wrote before he became popular that are currently being republished. I think I have one of those on my Kindle, but I'm not sure. I think I do. But basically all of the rest of his books I basically own, or pretty much all of them anyway. Linwood Barclay is a Canadian, I think, crime writer, but his books are told from the perspective of the victim of the crime, or somebody that is close to the victim, or something kind of along those lines. It's not told from the detective's point of view or anything like that, and I really enjoy that particular perspective. It's been a while since I've read a Linwood Barclay book, so I'm building up quite a collection now of ones that I haven't read, so I can see 4 on my shelf that I haven't read, including this one, so I really must get around to reading another one. The last time I read one was a couple of years ago, and I remember thinking that it wasn't as good as what I had remembered his writing to be. That might be that book, it might be the fact that my reading tastes have changed an awful lot, but yeah, every time I see that he has a new book out, I just can't resist buying it basically. Number 3 on this list is Dan Brown. So this is his latest release, Origin. Dan Brown is a bit of a guilty pleasure for me. He, you know, lots of people would argue that he's not the best writer in the world, that he takes historical fact and kind of twists it or uses it for his own purposes, but I really enjoy his writing nonetheless. This came out I think last year, or was it the year before? I haven't read this one yet. God, 2017. I got about 100 pages into it, maybe 80 pages into it, and I just felt like it wasn't the right time for me to read it, so I put it down. But his books are usually real page turners for me. You know, they're packed full of adventure, and I really like the Robert Langdon books. This is part of the Robert Langdon series. Is it book number 5 now? Yeah, this is book number 5 in the Robert Langdon series. There's written a couple of other books that are not focused around that character. But yeah, they're just full of adventure, full of history and art and architecture, and they're usually set in some sort of European city. Like this one I think is set in, is it set in Barcelona? No. Or yeah, part of it is set in Barcelona. So maybe that will make me pick this up a little bit more now that I've recently been to Barcelona. But you know, they've been set in Paris and Rome, and just the really lovely city locations make it a much more pleasurable reading experience as well. So yeah. Next on my list is Sarah Winman. This is Tin Man by her. This is her latest book. This came out a couple of years ago, I think. Is it 2017 that this came out? Yeah, 2017. And I remember picking this up in Waterstones and reading it within the next few weeks, basically. Just absolutely couldn't wait to read it. I own both of her other books. One of them I picked up a hardback edition of, and I must make sure that I look for the other one. What first drew me to her writing was that she is a local author to where I grew up. So I grew up just outside of London, on the borders of London and Essex, and that's where I believe Sarah Winman is from. And she talked, in her first book she mentioned a location where I had been several times. So that drew me to her work first of all, but also she's an author that doesn't really stick to one particular genre. So this book here is quite contemporary. It deals with relationships and yeah, I don't want to say too much more than that because it's such a short book and I don't want to spoil it. But this is very much about relationships, and there are other books about relationships too. But When God Was a Rabbit and A Year of Marvellous Ways have sort of magical realism elements to them. They're quite subtle and yeah, so they're not really overt in that kind of sense, but I really liked that kind of idea and the idea of family and things like that. And I do keep meaning to reread When God Was a Rabbit because that's her first one and it's the haziest in my mind right now. But yeah, I will... Yeah, she's not mentioned that I know of that she is writing another book. Hopefully she is, because when she publishes it, I will be in that line to buy it. Number 5 on my list is, of course, Angie Thomas. I read her book The Hate You Give a couple of years ago and absolutely loved it. And I was sort of umming and ahhing about a couple of authors on this list in terms of the fact that they have got just 2 books out at the moment. So this is Angie Thomas's second book on the come up. I bought this recently but I haven't read it yet. But I was so blown away by the first book that now whatever she writes I just feel like I've got to kind of pick up. So I may change my mind about that if I don't like On the Come Up so much, but I'm hoping I really will. I think she deals with issues that are very important in society, and she gives a voice to those who desperately need a voice, and I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate her characters and her storytelling and just her writing style. I think she's, yeah, I loved The Hate You Give. I must reread it. So yeah, Angie Thomas. Another author who's I only own 2 of her books, and I think she only has 2 books out, is Akemi Bowman. So this is her second book called Summerbird Blue, and I read Starfish last year, and it was one of my favourite books of last year. She's a YA contemporary writer, and I liked Starfish so much because I felt like I could relate to the main character in the way that she presented herself to the world and the kind of problems that she had and things like that. So I don't know whether I'm going to get the same sense in this one, but I really did enjoy her writing and I want to support her, and therefore I'll buy anything that she brings out. Next up on the list is Jo Nesbo. Jo Nesbo is a Norwegian writer. Yeah. He's a Norwegian writer, so this is translated. He's a Norwegian crime writer, and he's most famous for writing the Harry Hole series. So Harry Hole is a detective that he writes, and he writes various different novels following his character. And I really like these because they're quite gritty at times, and when I first started reading his books, I surprised myself in that kind of sense. I didn't think that I would like something so gritty and so gruesome at times, but I really do enjoy these. I don't know how well that would translate to other books that are similar to this, but Jo Nesbo, definitely like him. Harry Hole is a really interesting character in the terms of the fact that he is not... he does things in his life which means that he's not your good detective. You know, he has issues in his life, and so the books also talk about his life and kind of what's going on with it, and I really enjoy those. I have about 4 of his books that I haven't read yet. This is The Leopard, which I think is the next one that I have to read. Yeah, because the one before this is The Snowman, and I read that I think last year. So yeah, they're such chunky books, and they intimidate me when I first pick them up, but they are really easy to get through. The next author that I want to talk about is Sarah J Maas. This is the last book in the Throne of Glass series. It's called Kingdom of Ash. I haven't read this one yet, and there's one before it that I haven't read called Tower of Dawn. I remember getting one of Sarah J Maas's books for Christmas, so I bought... It was a present for my husband, but of course I bought it. I bought Throne of Glass, and I remember absolutely loving Throne of Glass, giving it to my husband to read. He really liked it, and then we've just continued on in the series, and of course you've got her other series of Court of Thorn and Roses, which we've also really liked as well. Yeah, she's definitely changed as an author as she's gone along, so her books have become a lot bigger than they were before, and we both kind of feel like she's definitely riding the train of her fame, in terms of perhaps her series can be a little bit more drawn out than they need to be, but hats off to her. You know, she's got loads of fans and her fans love her work, so what are you going to do? Give them what they want, basically. So yeah, I think I own every book that she's written. I'm pretty sure I do, including the Catwoman one. Is it Catwoman that she... I'm not going to be able to see it now. I think it was Catwoman that she had. Yeah, which is part of the DC series that include like Wonder Woman. And is it Batgirl, I want to say. Yeah, I own everything that she has written. Would love to meet her, but she's only in... When she does book tours, she's in London for like 3 nights. Or in the UK for like 3 nights, and the events sell out so quickly. So yeah, but I will always remember reading Throne of Glass for the first time and falling in love with the series. And I'm not a big fantasy reader, you guys know that, but I really do like her books. Okay, the penultimate author that I want to talk about is Rita Sepp. So this is her book Out of Easy. I'm holding this one up because I feel like it's the one that's the most underrated, and that people don't really talk about an awful lot, and it's probably my favourite out of the 3 that she's written. She is in the middle of writing a 4th book, which I can't remember the title of off the top of my head, but I am so excited for her to bring that out. I don't know when it's coming out. I don't even know if it's got a publication date, to be honest. But yeah, she writes, I would say she's on the cusp of YA and adult historical fiction. You would maybe say YA because her characters are more sort of in that age range, but this is definitely not a book just for young adult readers. I would say that you can definitely read these and enjoy these as an adult, as have I. They're just compulsive and emotional, and I remember getting to the end of this book and crying, and I don't often do that in books, but also related a lot to her characters as well. Just absolutely loved them. Cannot wait for her to bring out a new one, and I will be buying that as soon as it comes out. And the last author on this list is none other than Sarah Morgan. So you guys know, if you've been watching my channel for a while, that I have been increasingly obsessed with Sarah Morgan and currently making my way through her back catalogue. I have quite a collection of Sarah Morgan books on my shelf now. Let's see how many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This makes number 10. And I haven't hauled this yet. I've just bought this a couple of days ago. Was it Thursday? Yeah, because I think this came out on Wednesday, and I got an email from her website, and I saw her tweet about it on Twitter, and I immediately had to get it. So Sarah Morgan is a contemporary romance writer, but she is sort of slipping into more sort of just straight contemporary now. So when I look at the synopsis of this seems to me much more about friendship than it is about romance. In fact, I don't know whether there's any romance in here at all. It doesn't really say that. So it looks to me like it's about female friendship, and I read The Christmas Sisters at the end of 2018, so this is The Christmas Sisters, and this did have lots of romance in it, but it was focused around a family and 3 sisters and about them coming together again at Christmas. It was much more about that than it was about their relationships with their husbands, partners, boyfriends, whatever. So yeah, I like both her contemporary and her contemporary romance. I'm making my way through her back catalogue at the moment. So I've been getting some of her older books from the library, because she wrote a lot for Mills and Boon, and I have no problem with having Mills and Boon on my shelf, but a lot of them are quite old now and out of print and things like that, so it'd probably be better that I buy them from the library. But these are published by HQ, so yeah, I just absolutely love her, and I will continue to collect her books and continue to love her writing. So there we go guys, they were 10 authors that I will automatically buy the next book that they come out with. I'd love to have a chat with you in the comments below. Do you agree with any of my choices? What are some authors that you will automatically go out and buy the next book or get it from the library? Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.